Ever imagine like a world, completely reshaped, like no debt, no income
That
tax,
sounds pretty utopian.
right? Well, that's kind of the vision this excerpt lays out. It's called The Financial Revolution, the Global Alliance, and the End of Oppression.
Catchy title.
Yeah, and the tone, it's intense. Lots of talk about like sinister forces and a global conspiracy,
Sounds like we're in for a wild ride.
for sure. So in this deep dive, we're going to, really break down these claims, see what this whole financial revolution thing is all about.
All right, let's get into it.
So the central claim here is this 17-country military alliance.
Okay.
And they're backing this like revolutionary decree from way back in 2015, the goal to dismantle what they call the deep state.
Right off the bat, I'm noticing a lack of specifics. The source doesn't name any of these countries,
Yeah,
and no real evidence for this decree either. So, like, who are these players? Where's the proof? Big questions right from the start.
totally. And this whole deep state concept, it's well, that's interesting. They claim this group is like manipulating everything.
Yeah.
Governments, finances, media, even education. It's
Mm.
like they're, pulling the strings from behind the scenes.
Mm.
Does any of this sound familiar to you? Like, have you encountered similar ideas?
Oh, absolutely. This idea of, like, hidden power structure controlling the world. It's a classic conspiracy theory trope.
Right.
And they often prey on, like, people's fears and distrust of authority. It's easy to get caught up in these narratives, but it's so important to think critically. Don't just take things at face value. Look for evidence. Consider different perspectives.
Solid advice. So we've
Yeah.
got this shadowy deep state supposedly running the show, but the source also talks about some pretty radical changes they want to make, right?
Yeah.
Like they envision a world without debt, no income tax,
Yeah.
a return to constitutional rights. Sounds pretty good on paper.
On the surface, sure, those are appealing ideas. Who wouldn't want those things? But again, we're back to the lack of specifics. How do they plan to achieve any of this? The source is big on promises, but very light on concrete plans.
It's interesting, too, because they keep hinting at these big events supposed to happen in 2024.
Right, but they never actually say what they are.
Yeah, lots of vague allusions. Okay, so let's dig into one of their specific proposals. They want to replace our current financial system with one backed by precious metals.
Basically, a return to the gold standard.
Exactly. For those who aren't familiar, that means like tying the value of our currency to gold.
It's an idea that has, its pros and cons. Historically, the gold standard did offer some stability, but it also had its limitations. Like it could restrict a government's ability to, say, respond effectively to an economic crisis. So would going back to that system really be more stable and just? Or would it just create a whole new set of problems? It's complicated.
For sure. And the source really amps up the drama when they describe all this. They call it a battle for the soul of humanity. Like this revolution is just around the corner.
Again, though, remember that kind of dramatic language? It's often used to distract from a lack of substance. Always a good idea to be cautious when you encounter that.
Right. So we've got this source claiming a major global power shift is underway. They're promising radical financial changes, and they're using very strong language to make their case.
It's a lot to process, and ultimately it comes down to critical thinking.
Totally. Don't just take anyone's word for it, no matter how convincing they sound.
Exactly. Do your research, seek out different perspectives, and form your own conclusions.
Absolutely. And as you're exploring all this, think about this. If a financial revolution did happen, what would you want it to look like? What kind of system would be truly fair and sustainable for everyone? That's something worth pondering.
It is.
And that wraps up our deep dive for today. Remember, this is just a starting point. There's so much more to explore.
Definitely. Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep those critical thinking skills sharp.
Couldn't have said it better myself.